And as a I guess not not a non-playing coach, but a non-professional playing person who's gone into coaching, we hear it quite a bit, don't we? That those players are just being given that opportunity, and it's almost kind of a little bit frowned upon. But we also do know players get a bit of a leg up into the coaching world.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
how how was that for you? I guess battling, not having that background, and I guess it's a two-pronged question, really, Craig, because I guess retrospectively, do you think you've benefited from that as well because you then have actually I talk a lot about this. I'm quite a big believer of doing the stages, not missing out on stages of how you develop your coaching skills, communication skills, all of these pieces.
Yeah. So no, I don't feel like I don't feel like I've missed out from not being a player. However, when you said the leg up, I mean, not everyone can teach, right? So not everyone can teach, and not everyone can coach, and not every ex-professional tennis player or good tennis player is necessarily going to be able to teach and coach. However, their tennis level can be used to very good effect with developing a player. And whilst my level was good enough for the level of players that I was working with, still probably, I think I still took my last set off of a 15 or 16-year-old Lewis Burton, much to his absolute disgust, because there was probably many a drop shots in there and slice backhands, but I was still able to take the odd set. But with working with juniors, the level was good enough. But I had to learn. I had to learn a lot. So the first time I ever took a squad as a coach was the first time I'd ever actually been in a squad, because I was never in a squad as a
Wow.
player. So I wouldn't have known how a squad went. It was just my own interpretation of what I thought players would want. And I remember doing county training as a 23-year-old, and I never would have been part of a county training squad. So everything that I did was the first time of me doing it and not experiencing it as a player. I had individual coaching with people and I hit with individual players, but I don't ever recall being part of any squad. In my age group, you went down the club and you met friends and you just played sets.
Yeah.
Didn't really have organized squad coaching.
And in terms of when you now look back, so sorry to keep talking about your age. I'm trying not to keep, but it's
Yeah, I'm not the
16.
young coach anymore. It kills me. But yeah,
16. My maths is good enough to know that's about 34 years worth of coaching.
yeah,
So
yeah.
when you look back over that, and I guess there's a lot of young coaches that'll be listening to this, what are some of those key development parts that almost can't be skipped? Because let me kind of preempt this. I see quite a few coaches or players that stop playing and then they go and coach at the top end of the tour, and I'm sure do a decent job maybe by building a relationship, by hitting, but maybe they aren't really ready to make that difference at that level. But then it's quite hard to go from that position and the perception of going down levels. And and I just always think we will get found out if we haven't done those levels ourselves, if we haven't learnt the lessons along the way. So what would some of
Yeah.
the key bits be for you that can't really be skipped, and the key messages, learnings as a young coach growing up?
So I guess I'm fortunate to say that I've coached everything now, apart from able-bodied Grand Slam tennis. I'm obviously privileged at the moment to be working with wheelchair Grand Slam tennis, but I've coached everything else leading up to that. So I recall, I won't say names, but I recall an ex-British female player who retired from tennis and naturally thought that she wanted to get into coaching. She actually only coached for a short period of time and it wasn't for her. However, a very experienced coach said to her, before you do, because she wanted to work with performance players, naturally so. She was a good professional tennis player, wanted to help out young professional tennis players, young junior tennis players that played well. But this coach, bit of advice to her was, come to the club, go to a club and go and coach adults for 3 to 6 months first. And that stuck with me. She told me about this, and whether the two of them would even remember, but I'm an elephant. I don't forget things. And that stuck with me. And that advice wasn't to me, but I thought that was such a good bit of advice, because his point was what you're going to then understand is just how to teach technique or to change habits and break habits and reteach someone. Now, albeit with a coaching an adult, but he just thought that it would be beneficial for that person, whilst they were going to be able to offer a very good hitting level, they were going to be able to talk about the mental side of the game, excellent tactical awareness and what have you. The one thing they probably wouldn't have experienced very much was developing skill or changing strokes, grips, and so on. So here's a bit of advice to this coach, was to just give you another layer, was to go and work with some adults for 3 to 6 months before you coach. Now, whether she did that or not, I don't know, but I thought that was a very good bit of advice, because that's the one skill that maybe that ex-tennis player doesn't have when they go and coach a good player who already has pretty decent strokes. It might be that they don't quite know how to unpick that and break it down, put it back together. How do you change a grip? How long does it take? They may have experienced it as a player, but not a coach doing it. It's very different. So, I mean, for me, I've coached everything, from adults to tots, 3-4-year-olds to, pretty decent juniors. So that's enabled me, and I've been able to draw upon all of those experiences over the years. But my ambition from the very, very, very start was that I wanted to be coaching good players. And at the start, it was I would love to be coaching county juniors at some point.